Alright, well, that was embarrassing. I was talking for another 20 minutes before I realized that the tape had stopped. And I just babbling on, man. That was weird. So, it got nighttime, so I'm at one of my secondary locations down here. I call it Duke's Place. There's this little medium-sized dog, gotta be like part lab or something, that I call Duke, that lives at this house. And I'll throw him a little bit of food when I get here, but won't come with me. Stays here, just like dedicated to this little two-story house. But the doors are easy to block. There's a bed upstairs, and it's relatively thin. No power, but that's one thing I miss about the apocalypse, I guess, is not being able to sleep with a fan. Like, I spent 30 years have to have a fan to sleep, and it's just not an option, man. I spent months just tossing and turning now, even if I think about it, just because all I can hear is my own breathing if it's not windy or raining outside. So that's just rough. So, yeah, no bunk up here. Duke's crashed out at my feet, and figured I'd pick y'all up where we had left off. So we got to the top of the bridge, right? We saw all the carnage on the other side. Now, the tanker had just exploded. Now, this was just so weird because it hadn't really sunk in. It reminds me, looking back on it, very much like when 9/11 happened. Like the first plane hit and everybody just kind of went, wow, that's weird. That's a serious accident. How can that kind of thing happen? Like, oh my God, we need to, check, make sure everything's all right. And then the second one happened and everyone just kind of like, whoa, terror, but just shocked and stunned that something like this was intentional, and it took days before it hit. When all this was going on, it hit me like all at once, but I needed to get stuff done. I couldn't stop. I couldn't freak out because of the hurricane or worry about, being traumatized, these guys with guns are looking for me, or this fucking invading ass military killed like people that I knew, or snatched them away for, for whatever reason. Come to find out, it was to take them and make them go work for them. Or, just even the fucking tanker just blew up. Like, holy shit, well, that's just another thing that happened. Need to move away. That's punctuation. And it was all in like 2 days. So I'm just stressing, trying to get back to the house, trying to get some kind of semblance, some kind of information what was going on, but everything just seemed so deserted all at once, and it was just overwhelming. The only people I had to talk to were these two goofballs that were with me, and they didn't have any other information either. So, I mean, we were just kind of spitballing amongst ourselves, but it wasn't a lot. Like, you had time to sit and process what happened, because you didn't know what had happened. You've seen some things that happened, but none of it made sense, or you didn't want it to make sense, So, like, we're looking down the Fred Harmon Bridge, and there's just chaos on one side. Just crumpled car, you can tell they had burned, and there's bullet casings everywhere, and bullet holes and everything. And if we got close enough, you could smell the remains. That there was still people in that wreckage. We tried to call out, see if there's anybody there, but you're not yelling, you're like, hey, hello, anybody there? What the hell happened? You're talking out loud, but it's mostly to calm yourself, to reassure yourself, not, what the hell would happen if we found somebody in that was still alive? Like, hey, help, I'm stuck in here, or I got shot, or something. Like, I have my little med bag on my leg, but I wasn't equipped to do that kind of stuff. And after everything that had happened last year, I don't even know if I was mentally capable of doing it. So we came down the bridge, whispering, calling out loud, but not discussing it with ourselves, other than just what the fuck, over and over. And we kept going down, back door, and there's the little, thing in the middle of the road. It's all Baytown. It's got the little oil derrick and stuff, and the lights aren't on it. The flags that are on either side are all torn the hell up, It's just like, who left those up during the hurricane? Whatever. We got to the other side now. My house was a few exits down, But as soon as we got on the other side, we abandoned the road. Like, what the hell happened here? Jumped over. And as we got to the bottom, got off the main road, and we're just taking off the little feeder. This next wave of just rain, just as bad as the hurricane. From 2 nights before, it was just bad. And Jace was complaining about his arm, but it was his right arm, whatever. It's this whole big deal. It's tingling, it's burning, it's itching, whatever. It didn't get into anything or whatever, but not anything recent, he said. Only weeks, but they decided they wanted to stick to following the main road and just keep going east. I was going to turn off, go down to my house. It was dark, it was raining. They were going to go that way. They found a house that was relatively empty and just stepped in there, and I kept going. I'm, a quarter mile from the house. So, gotta get back. My dog's down there, whatever. So I'm trudging. There's not any lights. There's a couple of them that look like maybe a candle, but everything's hidden when you get close. Can't really hear anything. And then, about a block from the turnoff to go down to my house, I can hear music, loud-ass music, even over the rain and the horribleness, and I kind of creep down the thing. I'm not creeping. I'm walking down the sidewalk, but I'm not trying to make myself any bigger or smaller, but I can definitely hear music being played very loud in Spanish, like par for the course for my neighborhood. That's what you can always hear blare, but it's usually coming out of our really loud cars that's going by. And I get down there and I can see that there's like a single house and there's cars everywhere and they're still like half flooded out and torn up and it's this whole big mess. But you can tell that one house was lit by a bunch of candles, a bunch of stuff, and there was music coming out of it. I guess they had an old school boombox or, some kind of generator or something, and there was people on the little porch thing. There was, just everywhere you could see, but it was raining, so they're like staying inside and keeping an eye on them. So I was like, I don't know, dude, whatever. So as soon as I could kind of see that, I kind of turned around, went over a couple of roads, just skipped it and went down towards the house. I started getting worried, and was my house going to be trashed? Like, I was a collector. I had my action figures, toys, miniatures, books, and I'd known there was at least 2 foot of water, if you can tell by the watermark everywhere else, and I was like, that's just, everything's going to be trashed. I lost everything in Hurricane Ike like that before, so I knew what to expect when I got there. But I rounded that corner, and the door was blown in. There was stuff everywhere. There was just busted action figures, and everything's mush, whatever. I wasn't going to be able to sleep in my bed. It was all going to be soggy, but I got a new bed. Maybe it's taller, but I get in, and my world has just collapsed. Everything is trashed once again. I lost my friends, or not my friends, but just acquaintances that I knew, my friends are missing and my dog is MIA and whatever, but here I am upset because I lost all my stuff. As a capitalist, it's like how it works. It's like George Carlin said, that's what your house is. It's a place to keep your stuff while you go get more stuff. I lost my stuff and I was crushed again, and this is when it hit me. This is when the loss and the weirdness and what the fuck's going on and people getting killed and people disappearing and all the stress hit me when I walked across that threshold into my busted ass ruined house with everything I just kind of mushed anywhere. So I was upset. I was exhausted. I made it back to the bedroom. The bed was still there, but it had been moved around. Probably still soaked and I was gonna get mold everywhere, but I curled up on my bed, man, went to fucking just crying about everything and passed smooth the hell out. Alright, good morning. Okay, so we're gonna go over here and try to check this stuff. The birds are making noise, but I can't quite tell
that means there's people. I don't see any people. We're going to get out here and go check these shops across the old Highway 6, man. Well, kind of burnouts and some wrecks and stuff here and there, but it's dead. There's no traffic. It is so weird. Going to go across these railroad tracks, across that and into the old shops, man. But I know they're not getting restocked. It's been over a year, but you just hope that nobody pulls up with the big truck or a wagon or something and hoards it all and runs it off to a compound or military base or whatever the hell, and just have some stuff here. Just some old school canned stuff would be nice. It's not completely horrible, but so. Yeah, I was telling you about what had happened. So, yeah, I made it back to the house. Dog was there. Everything was trashed. And I went and I passed out in the back room. But the next morning, I woke up to what I expected the last 2 days. I could hear voices. I could hear vehicles. I could hear shouting and craziness outside. And I got a church across the street one way and a school the other way. But nobody was banging on my door or anything. So I was like, okay, so let's see what's going on. Got my stuff. Look out and poke my head out, and there were cars, there were people, and there were a bunch of them over at the church across the way, and I was like, what the heck? So, I slowly kind of poked my head around the corner towards that place just to see what they were doing, and there was a bunch of people, like, demanding answers. This poor little preacher guy, I'd seen him out there before, like, mowing the lawn and stuff. I never went over there. It's a really, really small church, but I guess this whole neighborhood kind of got used to him. Go over. Damn. The railroad tracks. I remember they weren't nearly as tall when I was a younger kid, man. Damn. So, I had seen this guy out there doing his thing, and he was out there trying to yell that he didn't know what was going on. People were yelling, like most people are holding their phones, like why are they asking this guy? Like, I guess it was just a person of authority, and, you could tell he had like a couple of like cases of bottled water that looked like he'd been trying to hand them out, and people started like fighting over it, So he's like, back up, get in a line, we'll give you so many bottles per person, kind of stuff. This guy kind of took it on himself to help these people out, so that was cool. The schools had cars and stuff all over the place there, and everybody's kind of yelling. I got the little brick fence thing on the front of my house is by the porch thing, so I'm kind of leaned up on that trying to see what's going on. People aren't being violent with this guy, but people seem very scared, very confused, man. So I'm just like, okay, just kind of chilling, being over here, and back down the other side of the railroad tracks. Let me look. I don't see anybody. Again, like I said, it could be hide, but there's not. I mean, like I said, there's a wrecked car here or there, but it's not like nothing to barricade or anything I can hide behind. I'm gonna get over the one little strip center in my little freaking town. It's been half abandoned. It used to have an HEB. It's shut down. It's like an off-brand thing now. So, gonna get in there. So, the preacher guy is yelling and screaming and stuff or whatever. And then we all heard it. Sirens. We heard a siren in the distance, man. And everybody just kind of stops quiet, kind of looks around like, what the hell's going on? Like even the people at the school that were just kind of walking back and forth with kids. I don't know what the hell those guys are doing. And one of those big SUVs for Baytown just come barreling through. Like nobody was in the road. There wasn't like a mob big enough for that. It's a neighborhood where the people had to be like maybe 50 people up in this little area, this crossroads where my house just happens to be on the corner. And he was yelling. He didn't know anything else. He didn't know anybody. And then that SUV started coming down there. And everybody stopped. And everybody expected, like, this is a gathering of people. They will probably stop and tell us what's going on. That dude was doing 100. Just hauled ass through the middle of here. Headed towards 146 and I-10, man. It's just leaving. And the lights, sirens, shit. We're like, okay, well, at least somebody's taking it seriously. We weren't completely abandoned. Felt like a ghost town the last 3 days. So I was like, I go over and like the nearest person is like standing on the corner by the stop sign on my side of the property. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Because we have no idea. He and his people had evacuated. And as soon as they got up there, right before the hurricane was about to make landfall, just everybody lost contact with everything. Power just across the country just apparently went out. They asked their people next to them in the hotel. Then they asked at the hotel, and they were talking to the people down the street. And they lost power across the board. Like the hurricane hadn't even hit, but it's Texas. We figured ERCOT anyway, but to hit it that early was kind of weird. And they really didn't know what happened. They didn't get any all clears or anything because they haven't heard anything. Any kind of cops were always busy running off, and they would hear gunfire, and everybody just left the fucking gunfire. Like, what that? And so they just kind of en masse, as this big group thing, just decided, we're going home, man. Screw this. So they loaded up and started coming back. And, they came back through the night last night through a little bit more rain. The last thing I'd heard about the rain is there was another tropical depression, but they didn't know when or where or whatever. Like, they hadn't got into that. Everybody was still stressing about the first hurricane. So they didn't say anything. And I was like, damn, man, well, appreciate it. I said, well, these people, there was nothing about these lunatics with guns. And he's like, no, we had heard gunfire at certain places. There are certain gas stations that nobody stopped at because it looked like people were fighting at it. But we came back this way. But they had come down like these small streets. They didn't go down 59, 45, or 10 to get back here. And, there was rumors of like, oh, there's lunatics with guns and stuff. And I was like, dude, it is not a rumor. Like, I watched some guys in some paramilitary shit kill these people, these volunteers and stuff 2 days ago, like right down here. And I didn't know if it was like a militia thing, so they don't have cops or nothing. And somebody else walked up and like, what do you know? So I started telling them about that. And I was like, yeah, I was over here. We're volunteering, we're doing and helping out. And all of a sudden, these guys showed up with fucking guns when I was out that night, and they were lining them up. And I didn't recognize the uniforms. I couldn't really tell of a flag on the side or whatever. So I don't know if it was like terrorist or whatever. And somebody's like, well, that's probably where that cop's headed. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, no shit, but it's been 2 days. Why haven't we heard anything? And then all of a sudden that little preacher guy's there. He's like, yeah, nobody knows anything. That's why we're here. We have this issue. I don't know if the satellites are gone. I was like, well, if somebody's invading, that would have been the first thing they would have taken care of. Whatever. And everybody just started mumbling themselves or whatever. And, down the road where the not the old gas station, the old grocery store was, but it was an empty lot. Somebody had mentioned that, oh, they might be doing food or water drops down there, and we heard gunfire coming from there. Like, a couple of us had been around, knew what the fire was, and like, that's guns. Some people started scrambling back to their houses, some were doing whatever, and a couple of them started walking towards where this grocery, it's like 3 blocks down, or 2 blocks down, and then 3 blocks over. And they started walking that way, gonna go find out. I was like, you guys are walking towards where the fucking gunfire is, man. And we got to find somebody that's in charge of shit, find out what's going on. If there's somebody over there, shooting at folks, there's somebody that's over there that's trying to stop them. That person will know what's going on. And I was like, that's a horrible idea. But like a handful of them went that way. The church guy went back to his church. The bottles of water had all ran off. In the meantime, people at the little apartments across the street had probably just grabbed it and ran when nobody was paying attention. But yeah, it was a mess. It was all humanity piled up and just a microcosm of like, what the hell. I didn't explain the other 2 guys that I'd met, the other military guys on the road, because apparently these people just got right through them like it wasn't a problem. So either the military had run these guys off, or they went back into hiding like a cell or whatever the hell it was. But we really didn't know much. But then somebody mentioned that it might rain later, like the barometer's going crazy again. So everybody just decided to try to make, path here or there. And I was like, well, I'll go try to find somebody to see if they'll help my friends that either got shot or got taken. And I'll try to go check on the family, I guess, but they're on the south side of town. I'm over here in the northeast. Try to go check on, my sisters, my nieces, I guess, mom, and then Dad, he's probably barricaded in his house if he came back. I don't know if he even evacuated. I haven't heard much from him. But if he's pinned up in there, he's got a bigger stockpile of weapons. Anybody try to break in there, they're going to have a hell of a fight. So, yeah, so I was just like, screw it. I'm going to avoid this gunfire and try to get back where I was going. At least try to find a vehicle. Like, I got my buddy Scott down there. He's got my other car and a motorcycle parked in his garage for me. Maybe I can squeeze past the truck if nobody's seen these gun guys. Like, I don't know. So I decided to head back out, load up, take what I could, see what I could do.
Alright, well, that was exciting. The store wasn't a complete bust. I was able to grab a can or two for the dog, and I swung by, dropped that off. But while I was in the store, I thought I heard some movement or some people, so I just grabbed whatever was closest, like some really old school canned vegetables like green beans, and snatched them up and ran out, man. I ain't spending time dealing with people around there. Most of the time you come across them, you can't tell if they're gonna be trying to kill you, take your stuff, or just rip out your kidneys just for fun. So I didn't take any chances. I just left. So now I'm kind of taking the long way back home, down the road back through where the old park used to be. It's kind of overgrown. Speaking of which, you'd be amazed at how fast the grass started growing up, trying to take over the roads and even the highway and stuff. Like, it is ridiculous. I didn't realize how much as people we kept all that trimmed back, man. Nature just trying to take over. But yeah, so where were we? Oh, so yeah, I was trying to get back to see where the family was on the south side of town. So to do that, I had to go right back past where I was. And I was confused. All these people had come in. That whole side of the road was gummed up, looked like for a mile. Right? Like, how in the hell did they get back in here? Nobody's mentioning it. Everybody's just like, oh, we don't know what's going on. And so I got down there, man. I got close to the road, and it sounded like the world was working. Like I said before, there was no vehicles for like 2 days. Now it seemed like every vehicle was out there, but you can hear metal scraping and all kind of crap going on. And that the sound you hear all the time with the tank tread things on like bulldozers and tracos and stuff, that ting 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 ting, just constant. People yelling and stuff. So I got close down to 146, man. I can kind of peer around, see what's going on without being spotted too easy. But there's just people everywhere, so I'm trying to, I look like I'm trying to hide behind a fence. And a lot of people are walking, some cars are rolling, but most of the ones that are here are all waterlogged and gross, or people are standing guard over them. So I get down to the road, man, and I can see that there is heavy equipment just pushing these fucking cars out of the way. They had already got like 2 lanes of the 3 cleared, and man, son of a bitch, just pushed them off the side. There had to be bodies in those. Like, how in the hell are these people? All right, so everybody's really normal until trauma hits, but this shit hit, and everybody's just completely normal. Like when COVID was a thing, dude. Like, everybody's like, oh my god, this is so weird, but everybody just treated it as normal. Like, it wasn't like anybody really freaking out. Like, oh my god. And I guess everything's been pushed in so weird that it's just there. The people that are walking, that are moseying down the street, man, we're not within arm's reach. They're on the far side of the road kind of stuff, but everybody just walking in silence like you normally would. Like, nobody talking to their damn neighbors beforehand, right? So I got the road and I saw it was wrecked, so I didn't have to duck through the woods and shit as much as before. But I didn't want to be on the road. I didn't want to be a target, I just was uncomfortable with it as much as this is the new normal. Like, I was like, there was a bunch of people killed, like, right over there. What the hell? And nobody seems to be freaking out about it. So, like, somebody had to know something more than me. So, got back to the bridge. Bridge is open, but there's a lot of people walking, which, weird, but I guess everybody's cars got wiped out. And I say a lot, I mean, there had to be like a handful of us. But up and over, I tried a couple of times just to see if I could by, trying to, hitchhike, stuck out my thumb. Like, nobody even slowed down, man. I think a couple of them actually sped up. But during the day, the bridge isn't near as spooky. There's still brass mashed everywhere, bits and pieces of car. Like, you've seen a car like accident scene after they move stuff. Like, there's busted glass, there's bits of metal, there's still a burnout car here or there. They just haven't pushed or anything. But these guys are moving these trucks, but they don't wear like any uniform. It's not like the city guys are out here. They're just good old boys that happen to have heavy equipment or know how to use them or whatever. I have no idea. Like I said, I work with volunteer groups and stuff all the time. I didn't know who the hell these guys were. So I started thinking, I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. Did I start imagining it? Is my brain messing with me? That kind of stuff. Like, no, I definitely saw people getting shot. Like, I had to really reinforce that. So, but I tell you what, everybody's cleaning up on this side of the bridge. Everybody's doing whatever. Kind of on the other side, about 2 exits down, car honks. You can hear them just honk, honk, honk. Like, it's just like a cartoon, man. Like, you imagine traffic jam. But these are not burned out cars. These are actively running cars. You can hear the hum of all the vehicles that are there. And man, we're not even close down to Kima or anything yet, and these cars are just blocked up. Like 2 exits down from the bridge. Like everybody's doing good, everybody's kind of trucking along, and then just, Texas traffic slams to a stop. So I can't figure out what the hell's going on. So I just go ahead and exit my person and get over on the feeder road and walk towards the grass and the gas stations just in case. And this honking and this horrible noise and blah blah blah. And I made it about another couple exits, I guess. Just cars, just everything seemed to be normal. I seem to be the weird one walking because after like a couple exits, I was the only one left. And my little hit bag and my little go bag on my back, and I get down there, and all of a sudden, man, the honking and stuff stops for a second, and then the world came undone. I'm talking gunfire. Something sounded like it had exploded. Screams, horror movie stuff. Like this sounded like, I hate to sound like Chunk from the Goonies, man, but it wasn't the ones you hear in the movies, like actual gunshots, like, the ones you don't hear in horror or war movies, I'm like, what the shit? So I dug off in the woods. I ain't trying to get spotted, Look, I'm a human. I'm curious. I want to see who's shooting what and who's doing whatever. But holy crap, man. Like, okay, let's get going again. But, yeah, so, I'm ducking and diving. I want to go see. I want a rubberneck. I want to see what's going on. But I ain't that damn curious, man. I get down there and people just start abandoning cars. There's a mile and a half, 2 miles of traffic. They hear that shit too, and these people just screw it. I mean, I'm guessing this is what happened to the other stack of cars, man. Like, what the hell? Just the gunfire shit. I was like, who in the hell is shooting? Was it these lunatics over here? Whatever. And I get close, and it's a bunch of these idiots. There's a couple of them actually carried like Confederate flags and shit. Like, apparently they started some kind of fucking like roadblock thing, and just started shooting people, shit, and people in cars. Some of them are shooting back. This is Texas, man. What do you expect, But it wasn't the guys in the uniforms. That's what made me nervous. And I was like, there's so many of them. There's fuck all I can do, and I know I sound like a coward, man. That I'm not running down there and jumping in like every red-blooded American should go into. I'd be dead with them too. I'll find somebody with authority, point the cops in the way, and just ain't seen nothing, so I kept moving. I made about another quarter mile. I heard sirens in the distance. Gunfire got a little more sporadic, and I just kept going. Man, somebody's got it. They got it handled. Like that's nuts. So I booked it, dude. I kept going south. I was on 146, just doing my thing, and I know it's a very Texan thing to do, measure everything by exits, but another couple exits, I was down past Fairmont, man, and I heard a big truck rolling, like this is a big deuce and a half, and I was like, whoop, poked my head out from where I was, amongst all these, the gas station stuff that ain't open, and they all smashed and looted, but nobody's even going near them, like during the daytime, dude. What the hell? This is still relatively new, so nobody's trying to loot shit during the daytime. So, I look up, and there goes this big truck. It's almost wearing the same kind of camo that these idiots got on their outfits, whatever, but this is that military shit, those crazy guys that I'd seen before that was killing people. And they was hauling ass north, back up the road the way I just come, man, and that big truck was bouncing. You see these guys in the back, they look excited. It's not like a war movie where you want to run up Normandy, right, and everybody's all nervous. These guys are looking excited, and they drive up north, man, and so I'm not gonna say I didn't stress out or I didn't worry, man, but I turned around, I fucking hustled a little bit. I didn't run. I'm too tired and too lazy, man. I'm still way too fat, but I started jogging south a little bit. I did hear more gunfire. Started a little closer here, like they must have rolled up and just started opening up on them, man. But yeah, I'm headed where those guys are coming from, so that's fucking terrifying.